Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is about top 10 most haunted cemeteries around the world. But before we get into today's video, to those who are new to this channel, please feel free to click on the subscribe button and hit the notification bell so that you would be notified about the latest updates. So without any delay, let's get right into the video. Beneath the busy streets of Palermo, Sicily, curious visitors descend into the Capuchin Catacombs to walk among the dead. Since the 16th century, monks have been preserving bodies using the cool climate found in the underground space. So skillful was their technique that even some of the oldest skeletons in the catacombs still have skin and hair left on them. Throughout the catacombs, these mummified corpses hang from the walls in macabre arrangements. They are stacked on shelves, seated on benches and sealed in glass cases. The corridors and halls are divided into religious figures, virgins, children and wealthy individuals who purchase their place upon the walls. All are fully clothed, with some still wearing their traditional robes. The catacomb was officially closed in 1880, though interments continued into the early 1900s. One of the last was that of Rosalia Lombardo. To date, according to the last census held, the Capuchin Catacombs holds 8,000 corpses and 1,252 mummies within its underground walls. The Old Jewish Cemetery is exactly located on the spot between the old and the new center of the city. This Jewish district is known as Yosefov. The first burial took place somewhere in the 15th century. The oldest, still readable stone dates back to 1439. The last person to be buried at the Old Jewish Cemetery was laid to rest here in 1787. It is unknown how many graves the cemetery counts. There are about 12,000 visible headstones. But it's likely that there are over 100,000 people buried here on this small piece of land. Listed by many among the world's most haunted places, the Paris Catacombs, buried deep beneath the streets of Paris. It holds the remains of more than 6 million people in a small part of a tunnel network built to consolidate Paris' ancient stone quarries. It was created in 1786 to eliminate the city's overflowing cemeteries. It's now a hugely successful tourist attraction. With so many bones stacked up everywhere you look, it seems impossible to believe that ghosts don't exist here. The Quiet Stull Cemetery, located between Topeka and Kansas City, in the town of Stull, Kansas, is listed by many haunting guides as one of the 7 portals to hell. It is also one of the most haunted cemeteries in America. Stephen Jansen, director of the Watkins Community Museum of History, thinks the legend started as a fraternity prank in the 1970s, however, and have no basis in truth. The locals do their best to deter visitors on Halloween due to repeated vandalism in the cemetery, and it is even said that a local knocked down the burned-out church on the property as site of the supposed gateway to hell. Chowchilla Cemetery is a cemetery that contains pre-Hispanic mummified human remains and archaeological artifacts, located 30 kilometers south of the city of Nazca in Peru. The cemetery was discovered in the 1920s, but had not been used since the 9th century AD. The cemetery includes many important burials over a period of 600 to 700 years. The start of the interments was in about 200 AD. It is important as a source of archaeology to Nazca culture. The cemetery has been extensively plundered by huaqueros, who are the grave robbers who have left human bones and pottery scattered around the area. The bodies are so remarkably preserved due mainly to the dry climate in the Peruvian desert, but the funeral rites were also a contributing factor. The bodies were clothed in embroidered cotton and then painted with a resin and kept in purpose-built tombs made from mud bricks. The resin is thought to have kept out insects and slowed bacteria trying to feed on the bodies. The nearby site of Estacqueria may provide clues to the remarkable preservation of the numerous bodies in these cemeteries. At that site, archaeologists found wooden pillars initially thought to have been used for astronomical sightings. However, it is now believed that the posts were used to dry bodies in a mummification process. This may account for the high degree of preservation seen in thousand-year-old bodies which still have hair and the remains of soft tissue, such as skin. Chowchilla Cemetery is a prominent setting in Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. The forest surrounding Mount Koya, Koyasan, in Wakayama, a sacred mountain and temple complex founded by the monk Kobo Daishi, serves as a huge cemetery. So huge, in fact, that Okanoin Cemetery, as it is called, is the largest in all of Japan. Known as the headquarters of the Shingon sect of Japanese Buddhism, Mount Koya was settled back in 816 in a high valley that sits between the 8 peaks of the mountain. Over the past 1,200 years, the complex has grown to over 100 temples and not encompass the entire town of Koya. It is so important to a segment of the Japanese population that UNESCO named Mount Koya a World Heritage Site in 2004. Lit by thousands of lanterns, Oku-no-in is the mausoleum of the monk that founded the complex. According to tradition, the lights have been burning constantly since his death more than 1,000 years ago. It is around that mausoleum that the cemetery is located. Known not only for its size and significance, but for its unique headstones, Okanoin is filled with giant spaceships, cups, and other strange monuments erected for the former employees of astronautical and coffee companies. A special monument was built by a pesticide company to commemorate all of its insect victims. Greyfriars Kirkyard is the historic graveyard surrounding the Greyfriars Kirk Church, dating to the 1500s, and is rumored to be among the most haunted graveyards in the world. The parish and graveyard are named for the defunct Franciscan friary on the site whose friars wore grey habits. The graveyard has seen many historic events take place within its grounds and is the site of not only historic resting places but heartwarming tales and bone-chilling ghost stories. The kirkyard is famed throughout the world and attracts thousands of visitors every year to walk its grounds, see its historic graves and possibly witness a spectral figure moving through the monuments. One grave, in particular, is even said to have inspired author J.K. Rowling in her writing of the Harry Potter novels. Here, you'll find stories of violent ghosts, a loyal dog, body snatchers and beloved fantasy characters all in one place. The Capela dos Ossos, or in English the Chapel of Bones, is one of the best-known monuments in Évora, Portugal. It is a small interior chapel located next to the entrance of the Church of St. Francis. The chapel gets its name because the interior walls are covered and decorated with human skulls and bones. The Capela dos Ossos was built by Franciscan monks. An estimated 5,000 corpses were exhumed to decorate the walls of the chapel. The bones, which came from ordinary people who were buried in Évora's medieval cemeteries, were arranged by the Franciscans in a variety of patterns. Bachelors Grove Cemetery is just northwest of Midlothian and Oak Forest in the southwest Chicago suburbs. The cemetery is a roughly trapezoid-shaped area enclosed by the Rubio Woods Forest Preserve. One side is bordered by the remains of the Midlothian Turnpike, an early toll road that leads from Blue Island to Point Southwest. The land surrounding Bachelors Grove Cemetery was originally settled by English homesteaders who relocated to the area from New England, including Stephen Rexford, arguably the most well-known of the first wave of Anglo settlers, around 1833. According to legal records, Edward M. Everton sold the property to Frederick Schmidt in 1864, reserving and setting aside 1 acre of the land for use as a graveyard. By the 1920s, rumors of gangland bodies being dumped on the grounds began to circulate. By the 1950s, burials were no longer taking place on the grounds, but a whole lot of making out was as local teenagers used the overgrown cemetery as a party spot. The youth would break the headstones or steal them so regularly that most of the surrounding police stations eventually ended up with some piece of the cemetery. Along with the teenagers came the ghost stories, and soon the Bachelors Grove Cemetery was host to sightings of many of the usual suspects. A white lady, a black dog, and floating orbs were all reported, and a semi-respectable study of the site was even conducted. Established in 1789, this is the oldest grave site in New Orleans and remains an active one. The cemetery attracts more than 100,000 visitors annually, though vandalism has necessitated a guided tours-only system. One of the most striking features of the City of the Dead is that all the graves are above ground. Given New Orleans' high water table, underground burials aren't possible. You'll also see some oven vaults or bank vaults, with multiple grave sites stacked on top of each other. A popular stop in the cemetery is the tomb of Voodoo Queen Marie Laveau. The ghost of Marie Laveau has been spotted in many locations throughout the French Quarter, including meandering down the street past her old house at 1022 Saint-Anne Street. She'd most recognizable by the red and white turban tucked around her hair, and by the brilliantly colored clothes she wears. Within the cemetery, individuals have reported seeing the ghost of Marie Laveau walking through the tombs. And for those willing and risking to disregard her or her beliefs or religion, reports exist of people being scratched, pinched, or shoved down to the ground. Marie, as they say, is not always deemed the friendliest of spirits. Okay guys, that is all for today's video. Hope you all enjoyed the video. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and click the notification bell to receive the latest update from my channel. See you soon in another interesting video. Bye.